What's up, YouTube? Okay, so I have to talk about I have to talk about this trip to the library uh, that I went with my friend recently. We went to the library. She was doing her own thing, and I was looking for books that would have. I was looking for anything that would have information on lunar and solar eclipses uh, just over recent decades, like dates of total, specifically total solar and lunar eclipses. Uh, because I just wanted to find any information at all that would help me figure out what's going on with this Terminator sequence thing. Because it's suspiciously just like the Terminator sequence. The rhythm of these five eclipses is it matches the rhythm of the Terminator theme. Do 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 do. So I went to the library, uh, looking for information on it, and so when I get to the library, she gives me the computer so that I can look up stuff. I look up like six, seven, eight, 10 books, something like that. I looked up a bunch. I wrote down a list. Wrote down like half a page of books. Uh, and one of them was Book of Giants, which was super interesting. Uh, had nothing to do with the moon, but that was just that was just something that happened to come across. I was gonna look for it too, but so I wrote down a bunch of I wrote down the decimal system. I wrote down all the numbers and stuff to go look for these books, and I go looking for them. Uh, so let me. Do I still have that paper? I don't know where the paper is anymore. Where I wrote all the books down, but so I went looking for them, and I went I think B something in the B's. I was looking for something, and there were no B's. There was no so like one of them. It was a B and then a bunch of numbers, and that's where that book was. Uh, that's the shelf that book was on. That's the and you go find it on the shelf. The shelf didn't exist. It just went A C. It just went A to C. So then there were a bunch of them were in the D section. D, D with a bunch of numbers. That's where a bunch of the books I was looking for were. Uh, there was another one in the N, but it was the same situation. It just I can't remember. It was either the shelf. It was another just the shelf wasn't there, or like it was just missing. It was missing. It was missing. And then the one with the D's is the most interesting one. So I went to the D section, uh, and I found it. I found the shelves. This time I actually found the shelves. They were there. The shelves. The D section was there. Uh, So the books, I assume the books were there as well on the shelf. But the way this library works is the shelves are on rollers with motors or whatever. Uh, so the shelves move. You go to the thing, you press on the touch screen, move it, and you can move the shelf over so that you can get in between. Because there's a bunch of them, and they all take up a bunch of space, so you can move them and get to the shelf you need, and make space and get to the shelf you need. So in the D's, went to the D. There was one shelf. There's three. There were three shelves mashed together. Three. Boom, boom, boom. No space in between. Mashed together. Pushed together. What I was looking for was not on the outside of either of those either of the outside shelves. It wasn't on the outside. I had to get in between to find the books that I was looking for. So that's where the D is. So, tell me how convenient this is that I can't look up this information. The shelf on the left, there were three. 1, 2, 3. The shelf on the left didn't have a pad. It didn't have a pad. So it just didn't move. I assumed it just didn't move. The other two, just completely out of order. Just completely out of order. Just didn't work. Nothing. Couldn't get to it. Can't get to the shelves. And I went, for a short minute, I went looking around. For just a minute, I quickly started walking around. As soon as because I went back and forth between, there were pads on both sides of the shelves. Like on the long ends of the shelf, there was a pad here, and you move the shelf like this is how it would work. You press the button, it would move side like this. So I went on the opposite end of the shelf, and it was out of order on both sides. And the two out of order shelves are pushed up against one that does not have a pad on it. So that one doesn't move. Pushed up against, they're all three. It's the only three. This is what I went looking for. This is what, as soon as I noticed this, I was like, they're all three pushed together up against one that doesn't move. And these two are out of order. I walked around. I went walking around for a minute quickly around the rest of the library. The others aren't mashed together like that. And they all work. They're all lit up. They're all green, so you can press the button. Or red, whatever it was, it was red actually. It was a red button. Press it, but the pads that the pads that I needed to move were great, out of order. They didn't work. They didn't say out of order, but they were out of order, and they didn't work. You couldn't press it a bunch of times. It didn't work. So those three were mashed together, and the others were not. And the others worked. And then the two other sections that I had to get to, B and N, weren't there. And all of this just happens to do with all of those places that I had to go look for those books had to do with eclipses. And it was all of those places that just happened to be either missing or the shelves matched together. This is a college library, by the way. This is a college student library, by the way, here. So this is another weird one. Another weird interaction in my life. I discover this thing about eclipses, and when I just happen to have a chance to go look for information at an actual library, the information is missing, unavailable, inaccessible. There was one page on the site when I was trying to look up, in the directory when I was trying to look up the books. One of the things I typed in trying to find eclipses, it was very difficult to find these books, by the way. You had to type in the right thing or it wouldn't come up. You get what I'm saying? So, like, I had to type in the right thing. It had to be, like I had to word the lunar eclipses right or something like that. I had to take I had to take the S off, or just eclipse, or so, it was, you had to get it just right. And then the page came up, nothing. It had the books came up, but none of the books were available, is what it was. It's like, here's the list of books, not available, not available, not available, not available. It's just these weird coincidences keep adding up. They keep adding up, and they've become undeniable and unignorable at this point. So, information is withheld in this world, and this trip to the library was a very strange experience. I didn't say anything about it while I was there. Maybe I just say it here. But it's strange. None of the information was available, or it was missing. I couldn't access it because the shelf was in the way of itself, basically. The shelf wouldn't move. The shelf I needed to move wouldn't move. So I'm a little bit on my own with this eclipse information, because I'm just following the dates that I've gotten offline. That's the paper, the big long paper that I've shown. That's what that is. Is I've just pulled dates from online. I just wrote them. All I did was write them down. Oh, there was an eclipse. This date. Write it down. This date. Write it down. This date. Write. That was what it did. And then I put it on the grid paper and mapped it out. The dark squares and light squares. Dark squares are lunar. White squares are solar. And I just put them in the order that they were, by date, And then you start looking for patterns, and just start looking for weird patterns, just to try to get some sort of information on what's going on with the eclipses. One of the patterns matches the Terminator sequence. One of the patterns looked suspiciously like do because there's two on the end, two on each end, and one in the center is literally what the pattern was. So I was like, I didn't catch it at first, but seeing it, looking at it a few times, I was like, wait a minute, hold on. This looks familiar. This looks like the way the Terminator theme song sounds. It is.